Well, the IFP has accepted the DA's invite to discuss the country's future. It's what the party is calling its moonshot to stop an ANC-EFF coalition government in South Africa. The IFP says that while it has accepted the invite, it has not entered into a coalition agreement. So let's discuss this now with political analyst Lukhona Vangqa this morning. And Lukhona, thank you so much for your time. Good morning to you. What does this IFP, meeting or acceptance of an invitation by the DA mean, I suppose, for other political parties in terms of coming together ahead of the general elections next year?
Morning to Melo. IFP is not the only political party to have given a conditional acceptance to the DA's invite for participation in this moonshot pact. The FF Plus has also given a conditional acceptance. You've also seen Action SA also give a conditional acceptance as well. So some political parties, because generally what the DA is proposing in the moonshot pact is something that is generally agreed amongst the broader opposition parties. This acceptance of the need to remove the ANC from their side, then this is in the DA's moonshot pact. Secondly, have the violent crime rate, also end load shedding by devolving powers to provincial and local spheres of government for procurement of electricity generation. So those ideals are agreed to broadly amongst the stakeholders in opposition political parties, and that's why you see some are accepting this invite from the DA, and but they're giving conditional acceptance of this, and I'll tell you why that is. It's because of this attitude that is seen to be coming from the DA of arrogance and playing big brother by wanting to be the anchor tenant of any coalition agreement. So most political parties are not in agreement with that approach.
I want to also talk about the ANC-EFF coalition that the DA says is a possibility during the general elections. I'm sure during the Congress you would have heard John Steenhuisen during his acceptance speech constantly referring to an ANC-EFF coalition government that needs to be stopped. What is it about this ANC-EFF coalition that goes against the DA and, I suppose, other political parties which have had this conditional acceptance of this invite? What is it about those two parties that they seem to not be in agreement with?
Well, it's really a tactical maneuver, politically speaking, Tumelo, because the EFF stands, sort of counter to everything that the DA's primary constituency stands for. So the EFF wants nationalization, it wants the expropriation of land without compensation, and those are things that the DA's constituency doesn't agree with. They want free markets, they want to have private property rights, and their biggest fear is the EFF. So the DA is sort of using a tactic to ensure that they're able to galvanize and mobilize that base by putting themselves directly opposite or in opposition to the EFF, and therefore they will be able to galvanize that support behind themselves. There's really nothing that the EFF and the ANC could possibly do that the DA finds so reprehensible. It's simply that it's a tactical maneuver to steal some of the support that the DA lost to the FF Plus. And that is a pre-election tactic, by the way, Tumelo, because post-elections, the DA knows very well that there is no coalition that can exist outside with the ANC and the EFF, both outside that coalition agreement, because it doesn't matter how much the ANC drops. It's they're polling between 35 and about 45%, and the EFF is polling between 10 and 15%. So keeping both of those outside of any coalition post the 2024 elections is going to be near impossible, because they will be left with a minority government that will be in place, and it would have the same instabilities that we've seen in Ekurhuleni, that we've seen in the city of Johannesburg, where the DA doesn't want to work with the EFF, and those governments collapse every 2 or 3 weeks.
Yep. So speaking of this moonshot pact now, are the various opposition parties that have heeded the call, that conditional acceptance to the DA's invite, are they not at all concerned about the instability that we've all witnessed in the city of Johannesburg, Tshwane and Ekurhuleni? Has that been a call for concern that they have voiced to say, we hear you, DA, talk about this moonshot pact, but you weren't really able to, prove sustainability in these 3 metros?
So one of the conditions in that conditional acceptance, Tumelo, is that the DA must desist from antagonizing the EFF or identifying the EFF as enemy number one, because the other political parties don't share the same apprehension to the EFF. The UDM raised this issue with them. You found that the Action SA also raised this issue with them. Action SA as well was one of the parties in Ekurhuleni that said a minority government is going to lead to instability, and any government that doesn't have the EFF in it is going to be a minority government there. So there needs to be a reproach from the DA to bring the EFF into the fold and work with the EFF so that they can have that majority that they need to be able to pass those budgets, to be able to instill that sense of stability, to be able to have some longevity for those coalition agreements that they have in those municipalities. So that's one of the conditions that they are raising, that the DA must stop antagonizing the EFF in this moonshot pact that they have. But the DA can't do that because pre-election tactics, they need to antagonize the EFF so that they can galvanize and mobilize their base that is anti-EFF and anti-EFF policy, so that they can steal some of that support that they lost to the FF+.
Interesting times, and I appreciate you speaking to us about this. Political analyst Lukhona Vangqa, thank you so much for your time.